called the year of the other guy in tennis.
It began on the hallowed courts of Wimbledon, where a 22-year-old Australian, Pat Cash, thoroughly dominated a much more mature Yvonne Lendl. The tournament's 11th seed committed only 11 unforced errors in the final, rendering Lendl, the number 2 seed, virtually helpless. By the end of the third set, Lendl still possessed his rocketing serve, but he repeatedly committed volley errors. Leading 6 games to 5 in the third, Cash was almost effortless in his attack. Then, at triple championship point, Lendl finally succumbed to the spirited intensity of Pat Cash. With a 7-6, 6-2, 7-5 victory, Cash became the 11th Australian to win the Wimbledon trophy. Disregarding the usual protocol of the British tennis hierarchy, Cash scaled the bleachers at Wimbledon Meadow to embrace his father, a perfect ending to a nearly flawless afternoon of tennis. While Wimbledon was a duel between emotional electricity and mechanical perfection, the U.S. Open was simply an all-out endurance test. Once again, Lendl was at center court, serving up a rematch of his French Open marathon with Mats Wilander. Lendl had taken nearly 5 hours to conquer the Swede in June, and their repeat performance at Flushing Meadow proved to be yet another protracted comparison of strategies. Lendl was going for his 3rd straight U.S. Open singles championship, but Wilander matched him point for point. The contest was already approaching the 4-hour mark when Wilander floated a spectacular topspin lob over Lendl. In addition to his lightning serves, Lendl's strong volley skills returned, staking him to a narrow lead in the 4th set. Now on the ropes, Wilander used a last chance defensive lob to pull back into deuce in the 4th set.
Great save.
But it was Lendl who possessed the stamina to complete the marathon, winning 6-7, 6-love, 7-6, 6-4 in 4 hours and 47 minutes. The year of the other guy was not only valid in men's tennis, it also seeped its way into the women's circuit. Played in the midst of a French windstorm, the women's singles finals in the French Open featured a chess match between Martina Navratilova and 17-year-old Steffi Graf. The match was an even display of offensive tactics, Graf's punching forehands and cross-court game versus Martina's aggressive net attacks. After splitting the first 2 sets, Navratilova held a 5-3 advantage in the 3rd, but Graf accelerated her pursuit, seizing a 6-5 lead with another forehand volley winner. Steffi Graf became the youngest women's singles champion in French Open history. The emotional German took a 6-4, 4-6, 7-5 victory.
When the Year in Sports 1987 continues, the sound of pounding thunder at the Kentucky Derby and the graceful elegance of the Tour de France.
Every day, Jack Taylor and Joe Donovan take the same road home. But today, they went a little out of their way.
Give you a hand.
Here's to you, the clean, crisp taste of Beechwood-aged Budweiser.
This Bud's
For all the guys who go out of their way.
This Bud's for you.
The grace of its flight, the thrill of its thunder, the vision, the drive, the spirit of Thunderbird.
Now, during Ford's Leadership Celebration, get a $600 cash bonus on Thunderbird.
Next time on Cheers.
Will you marry me tomorrow and make me the happiest man in the world?
Well, of course my...
It's the moment of truth for Frasier and Diane. And Sammy.
Diane is going to marry Frasier tomorrow afternoon in Florence.
Oh, Sam, free at last.
So, will Sammy speak now or forever hold his peace?
I'm going.
That's what I do.
Find out for whom the wedding bell tolls next time on Cheers.
Cheers, Monday night at 10:30 on Channel 7.
The Wild Basin, a part of nature's beauty which lies virtually untouched in Austin. It belongs to you and your children. The preservation of this beautiful green space is our responsibility for the future.
There's a little bit.
The Wild Basin, a beautiful legacy.
The NBA's annual showdown between Boston and LA took a back seat during 1987 to a bittersweet change. The NBA lost a superstar. The doctor departed. Dr. J. Julius Erving announced his retirement after 16 years in pro basketball. During his final season, Dr. J became only the third player in NBA history to score over 30,000 career points. The record will show that Dr. J's final NBA basket was a three-pointer against the Milwaukee Bucks near the end of the first round of the '87 playoffs. Seconds later, the 37-year-old superstar left the game for good with a tearful salute from his teammates. Dr. J's legacy is carried on now by two familiar superstars. Magic Johnson won the league's MVP award with shots like this unbelievable 80-footer against Denver. And Larry Bird continued his unrelenting style of play by stealing an inbound pass against Detroit in the Eastern Conference Final, then dishing it to Dennis Johnson for a one-point Celtic victory. The NBA Final was billed as another Magic and Bird showdown, but it was James Worthy who earned a curtain call in the first half. Worthy, a monstrous fake on Kevin McHale, and hits the turnaround for an 8-2 Laker lead. Later in the period, he shot past Kevin McHale again, this time shoveling it to Kareem for the jam. With the celebrity-studded Forum crowd cheering, Worthy finally delivered the knockout punch in the third period. He put the Lakers on top for good by flushing out a pass intended for Dennis Johnson, then saving it and feeding it to Magic for the jam. By the time Danny Ainge dished his rebound to Bird for the bucket, the Celtics were out of it. Boston could manage only 12 points in the third period, and that translated to a 106-93 Laker victory, which gives Magic Johnson an edge. Ever since Magic and Bird entered the NBA together in 1979, one or the other has been in the finals every year. Now Magic holds the lead over Bird in championship rings, 4-3. By the 21st stage of the Tour de France, only 146 cyclists had survived to jockey for the victory ride into Paris. Three riders clearly led the field in the 26-day, 2,500-mile race. Jean-Francois Bernard of France, Stephen Roche of Ireland, and Pedro Delgado of Spain as they entered the most grueling phase, a sprint through the French Alps. At the outset of the 21st stage, Delgado held a 25-second lead over Roche and a 2:02 edge over Bernard. But Roche felt he had Delgado right where he wanted him. The Irishman made a daring move for the lead with 60 miles left, going into first and hoping to maintain it through the next series of mountains. But by the next flat, the Spaniard had regained the lead once again. It was a risky gamble that failed to pay off for Roche. He finished the stage totally exhausted. On the 24th stage, Roche finally ceased to gamble and attacked instead with raw power. Delgado's strength was in his climbing ability, and he was left quivering in the Irishman's wake as Roche literally blew away the field on the relatively flat course. Roche now led Delgado by 40 seconds and Bernard by a full 2:13. By the time the Tour reached the Champs-Élysées in Paris for the 25th and final stage, Stephen Roche had assured himself of victory. He was content to remain surrounded by the pack while Jeff Pierce of the U.S. won the stage. Stephen Roche of Ireland won the 1987 Tour de France with a total time of 115 hours, 27 minutes, and 42 seconds. Pedro Delgado finished second, with Jean-Francois Bernard in third. 1987 also brought about a youth movement in sports. When we return, a young team wins the NCAA basketball tournament. An underdog Colt wins the Kentucky Derby, and a 28-year-old hometown boy wins the Masters. All that and more when the Year in Sports 1987 returns.